I have some fantastic news from Mercedes-AMG. They are, in fact, keeping the V8 for the AMG CLE 63 as they should, because they realized that what customers really want in the 63 is to keep the V8 intact, and the board here of Mercedes are listening to the customers and finally confirming that the V8 is actually going to end up in the CLE 63. So we're going to have a look at this article from carbuzz.com. I'm going to link it down in the description. Video evidence proves Mercedes-AMG CLE 63 is getting a V8. We're going to have a look at the CLE 53 in Photoshop in a minute from front, side, and rear in the interior. And I'm going to talk about what I love about that design. I just saw one now when I was out. The first one in matte black out on the roads, and it looks great. The 63 is just going to be another beast. At long last, there is good news from the land of AMG, giving its junior performance coupe a V8. Carbuzz spies recently spotted prototypes on the Nürburgring without any plug-in hybrid stickers or charging ports. It's either that or Mercedes-AMG has mastered the sound of V8 noises through speakers. I definitely hope not. I don't want that to be the case, of course. The CLE 53 has 6-cylinder, so it's logical that the big brother here is going to get the V8. So here we can see some spy photos. It doesn't really have a lot of camo on it, and it doesn't look that different from the CLE 53, specifically in the front end. In the rear, we do have these squared off tailpipes now, which is typical for 63 models, while the 53 has round ones. I'm not sure which one I prefer, to be honest. I think both of them look good. Love the wheels that we have here as well, just looking tight. And this, when I saw it now, just half an hour ago, and as I said, that was the first CLE I've seen in real life. It just, CLE 53, I reviewed the CLE 450 in real life, and that felt like a mini AMG. It's so powerful. Great car. I loved the driving dynamics of this car. If you want to go and check that out, it's on the Sketch Monkey channel. But the CLE 53 and 63 are just going to be on a different level. And the big deal here with the AMG models of the CLE is that it's a lot wider than the regular CLE, and that is what properly plans this thing on the ground. So the Mercedes-AMG C63 has been the car world's favorite performance sedan to have used since it was announced with a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, actually the current C63, so what I'm talking about here, with a plug-in hybrid system, adding a lot of weight. It's very powerful, but it's also very, very heavy. Sales have reportedly been less than stellar. I wonder why. The old one had a fantastic, fabulous V8, and then they come up with a 4-cylinder for the new one. You could kind of expect it to not sell as good as the previous one. And at one point, vicious rumors suggested the performance sedan would undergo a massive midlife switch back to a V8 engine. Those rumors have obviously not been confirmed by AMG, but that would be, I think, a good way to start bumping up the sales for the C63. Doing away with the C-Class and the E-Class coupe in favor for the new CLE. So this combines, as I've said before, CLE is a combination now of the old E-Class coupe and the C-Class coupe into one single model. And I think that's a good idea because, first of all, personally, I was never really a fan of the E-Class coupe. I didn't think it looked good. The front looked a little bit too, the proportions of the front looked too heavy for the rest of the coupe shape. The old C-Class coupe, though, was an absolutely beautiful car, and thankfully they took most of the styling features, the proportions, from the C-Class coupe into the new CLE instead of taking inspiration from the E-Class coupe. And this is, of course, the replacements for the old AMG C63 coupe. So Mercedes-Benz only has one V8 in service right now. It's a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that powers a plethora of sedans, coupes, and SUVs. And we're expecting the output here, the power for the CLE 63, to be north of 600 horsepower, as it should. I think, you know, to match the C-Class 4-cylinder with 671 horsepower. I have a feeling they're gonna do something crazy with the power numbers here for the CLE 63. I certainly hope so. I want it to be more powerful than the C63 plug-in hybrid. Now, without the cumbersome plug-in hybrid system, the CLE 63S will weigh much less than the C63. So that might be a reason why they actually might keep the power similar to what we have in the C63, because we already have a massive reduction in weight since we don't have the plug-in hybrid here. The V8 was originally expected to be phased out by AMG in coming years, but earlier this year, AMG boss handed it a lifeline, saying that there was no end date to its production, and the customer demand would be the major factor in its continuation or demise. And that is what I want to hear. Car companies actually listening. What's going on here? Do people want to buy AMG EVs? Do they still want V8s? Or maybe we can, compromise, make a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid. That didn't work, so let's go back to what actually worked from the beginning, which is, of course, smashing a big V8 into the CLE 63. So here we have it. This is in fact the 53, but as I showed you in the spy photos, it doesn't look like it's going to be a lot of differences, specifically in the front end. This already had the wider body than the CLE 450, which already looks very, very good. But this in matte black, this is the exact spec that I just saw out on the streets with these black wheels that I absolutely love. I think these are some of the best looking wheels from any manufacturer right now. These doesn't look bad, but I would actually prefer, in this case, I think this is going to be a shocker. I think I actually prefer the blacked out wheels in this design in contrast to the silver wheels that we have up here. But as I said, this takes a lot of inspiration from the old C63 Coupe, which I love that they took that instead of the E-Class, because the C-Class Coupe looked so much better. We have this frowning grille now, Panamericana grille, of course, for the AMG models here. Big star in the middle, front mounted camera right there. Love this chamfer that goes right above the headlight here into this corner of the grille, and creating a very nice housing and making the headlight feel very welcomed here in the front end. And we have the typical lower section here with a nice, beautiful chamfer going around the key graphics down low, and this sort of turtle's smile face or angry face, not smile face, design or graphics for this lower section, is typical for pretty much every single Mercedes AMG design right now. I love that we have a scoop up top, or a vent up top here in between these two muscles up top on the hood, the ridges or the bulges right there. Now looking at the side view, the only thing that I would like to change here, there's just one detail, and that is this feature right here. This makes it look cheap. It doesn't make it look good. I just want to remove this and have this be, I want to remove the black plastic and just have it be sort of a body contour without this additional piece of graphic here. So remove this, and we can still have the vent here for the wider body, wider front fender going into the door. And what I love about Mercedes, in contrast to BMW, for example, is the fact that since we have a wider body here, they did not, maybe they did actually, because this door sit very far ahead here. So this might actually be the exact same door that we have in the CLE 450. I'm not sure. But the transition from the wider body right here in the rear end into the front door here looks a lot better than what BMW has been doing recently. But that is also the fact that they have 4 doors, so it becomes a lot closer. They put a door right here, and this transition from the wider body in the M3, for example, just clashes very hard here. But this has a very fluid and beautiful transition going into the doors, and it feels like, I mean, when you have seen the Mercedes-AMG CLE and you compare it to the CLE 450 that does not have the wider stance, it just makes it feel like you kind of have to get the AMG, because it just looks so much better with this wider body here. We still have the same sort of graphic feature here that I want to remove as well, and just have it be body, a cut into the body without this plastic piece. Again, these wheels look fantastic. If you put this side by side with an old C63 Coupe, this roofline, these proportions look pretty much identical, specifically the top half right here. This is almost identical to what we had in the pre-C63 AMG Coupe, which is not a bad thing at all. That was a beautiful car. Now looking at the rear end here, look at the volumes that we have in the rear fender here with these muscles going across the entire car. And then we have this line at the bottom. Doesn't really have a connection to what's going on in the rear end, but that's totally fine. The wheels, again, from this angle looks great. This being the 53, as I said, having the rounded tailpipes down here. Typical Mercedes styling for this diffuser here as well. The diffuser itself, I'm not sure. It could maybe been a little bit more aggressive than this, but at the same time, I'm glad that Mercedes is not going crazy with their integration of the diffusers and just have them, like it seems to be the trend now, just have a stick up all the way up here and have some massive fins in this area, for example, like BMW has been doing. In this case, right now, in today's car design, what we have on the market today, I think Mercedes sits above BMW when it comes to design. I think it's a pretty easy, choice. Who are making the more beautiful cars these days? To me, it's 100% going to be Mercedes. Hopefully that changes up with the, entire switch of the entire lineup of BMW's design team, like they just announced, taking people from Polestar and from Porsche and try to figure out what they want to do with their design language. But for now, Mercedes is definitely crushing it when it comes to their designs, except of course for their EV bubble designs. The rear graphics here has some inspiration from the EV designs. Maybe could do a little bit of a redesign of the taillights here, have them be more structured and not this rubber band design where you have the thickest part being here and then it goes into thinner here and then slowly fade. It's like you're stretching out the taillights and it becomes thinner in the middle, if that makes sense. And then we have the interior here. So I drove this for a week, the CLE 450, and I thought this, I've said this before, you see this angle here of the screen, it's tilted, I think 6 degrees to this side right here, so it sits angled a little bit. I thought that was gonna drive me completely nuts when I was sort of living with the car for a week, but it's actually worked really well. It doesn't bother me when I'm in the driver's seat because you can barely notice that it has this angle to it. But when you know that it's there, it's just one of these things that you want to grab the infotainment screen and just tilt it backwards 6 degrees. But unfortunately, we don't have a housing for the gauge cluster like we have in the new AMG GT, for example. Here is just a screen in front of the steering wheel, but thankfully we still have some radiuses in here, and the vents look cool as well. The interior felt very nice. I love the AMG steering wheel with the drive modes here and the suspension settings and so on in the other area with small little displays in the steering wheel as well. So overall, I am extremely glad to hear that AMG are putting back V8s into the CLE 63 because I think that is what's needed, and I think they see that themselves in the sales numbers. Like, hey, we need to do something here. AMG is slowly dying off because we're putting 4-cylinders, we're plug-in hybrids instead of big old German muscle cars is what AMG used to be. And I hope that this is going to translate over to a lot of other AMG models in the future.